are officially still in the season of Christmastide, but since it's only 6 days after Christmas, we are in that season that more people would commonly call Boxing Week. And if I were to ask you all what Boxing Week was about, I have no doubt that you would know the answer. That's the week when we go back to the stores and get all the stuff that we really wanted for Christmas. People have tried to give other definitions to Boxing Week. Some think that that term boxing comes from the idea that on the day after Christmas, you bring all your family together and invariably somebody will get into a fight. That's not what it is. Others think it has to do with the fact that on the day after Christmas, our houses are so filled with boxes from the day before, we have to pack those boxes up and put them out with the blue bin. That's not it either. Others think it's the day to pack up all those things we didn't want and return them to the stores. Not that either. Boxing Day, in fact, is a profoundly significant Christian celebration which we sadly have lost. It has gone somewhere and been claimed by someone else, much to the detriment of the church and to the world in general. This is what Boxing Day really is. It has its origins in the Bible, in one of the powerful stories of the Acts of the Apostles in the 6th chapter with Stephen. Now you may remember that when the church was starting out, the 12 apostles found it very difficult to manage all of the work. So they decided that they would bring to themselves 7 persons to act as deacons. And the job of the deacon was to manage the distribution of wealth to the poor people. You remember that in the early church, when people joined the church, they would give all of their possessions and belongings to the church, and then the church would see that the money which came from wealthy people would be fairly and evenly distributed among those who needed it. One of the deacons who was called was Stephen. It was his job to give the money from the church to those who were in need. Sadly, Stephen was also one who proclaimed the gospel and proclaimed to the whole world around him that people should turn away from dependence on the law towards dependence on the grace and mercy of God. He preached the word of the prophets who said that we must always keep the poor in mind and care for them. But he preached that in a society that believed that if people were poor, it was their own fault. People should remain poor if they were poor, because that's how God wanted them to be. And Stephen challenged that idea, saying to them, no, we who are wealthy must share. And of course, when Stephen preached that message, he was laid hold of by the rulers in the church. He was dragged to the outskirts of the city, and he was stoned to death. You may remember that at the end of that chapter, there's a little sentence that greatly affects our understanding of Scripture when it says, when Stephen was stoned to death, the man who held the coats of those who were throwing the stones was none other than the Apostle Paul. Before he was converted to Christianity, but that little part of Paul's life is a story for another day. Stephen is the saint of this day. And Stephen in the church was held in such high regard that he was given the day after the birth of Christ as the celebration of his life. So December the 26th is St. Stephen's Day, with its origins rooted deep in the Acts of the Apostles in that day when Stephen even preached caring and sharing for the poor. From that day onwards, all churches would have some special collection for the poor and those in need. And after the offerings had been given, and after the tithes had been given, they would then collect the third offering. I'm sure you would all be in favor of 3 offerings here. And the third offering was the giving of alms for the poor. And that money was collected in a box.